Dexter, oh Dexter, French is the language of love. Say it again.
Omelette du fromage. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it!
Okay.
Well, welcome to the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. Welcome back to the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast, episode number 16. My name is Nathan.
And I am Ian. We're back again, and about time too.
Yes, and it's time. It's the Oscar season.
Actually,
It's the most beautiful time in Hollywood. It's the most beautiful night of nights. The city of stars and angels sings. If the Academy would like me to reach out and make the theme song for the does the Academy Awards have a theme song?
No, but they should just
I think
use
they need
the
one.
On Cinema theme song. I've got the Oscar fever.
Yeah, exactly.
You got it too. Pour me a little bubbly. That's what you gotta do. It's Christmas for Tinseltown, the Academy Awards. Pop up some popcorn and welcome aboard. Who's gonna win? And who's gonna lose? I think that's it.
That's the whole thing. Oh my god, I love that you could just break that out. To be fair, you did absorb, I think, more on cinema in a short amount of time than anyone else did for that video.
Yeah, no, I think that was. I'd say it wasn't even really for the video. I just did that on my own accord, and then I'm like, hey, that's a good thing to advertise the video as, because I did. So yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was pretty much like
it wasn't even for content.
Yeah,
You just
I smell like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange, like having my eyes held open.
But you were the one holding your eyes open. Like you didn't need to watch.
Yeah,
all like how many years of On Cinema did you watch?
13, my friend. 13 years.
Oh my god.
And that was like keeping track
now I gotta
of
catch up
everything.
with you now. Jeez.
That was like, following several different websites to make sure I watched everything in order. Five episodes of Decker goes there, and then there's this episode of On Cinema, then another episode of Decker, and then there's 3 more episodes of On Cinema. It was crazy.
Some people don't know what order to watch Evangelion in, and you're out here with an episode guide trying to get all of the proper like chronology in your On Cinema. I think that's great for you.
Yep. Actually, just the other day I watched. They did a movie, Mr. America, and they had a Q&A. Tim and Greg. And, who was hosting the Q&A was Nathan Fielder.
Shut the fuck up.
No, really.
I love Nathan Fielder.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, he's...
That's like one of my favorite guys that shares my name.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think Nathan Fielder's ever been on, like, Tim and Eric or any of thing that Tim Heidecker has done, but,
which is surprising.
Yeah, but he produces his show through Absolutely Productions, so, I mean... He does have a business relationship.
I didn't even know that actually.
Really? Because I remember you saying back in the day when you first told me about Nathan For You, you said it was by Absolutely Productions to get me interested. I guess you just forgot. But.
I might have forgot. Yeah, I might have got something mixed. But yeah, I probably forgot. I retain information about as well as I can, which is for about 2 years, and then I just forget it.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch Nathan For You, at the end of the credits, it's Tim's dad going absolutely, just like it is in...
Yeah, that's Tim's dad.
Yeah.
I whenever I watch any Absolutely Production stuff with Avery, because Avery doesn't know all the stuff we know, so whenever I watch it, every episode ends and I go, that's Tim's dad, because of the commentaries.
Yeah, the commentaries
of
with Eric
awesome show.
That
I don't know why that's so funny to me, but like the more that he said it, the funnier it got every time.
Yeah, no, because it wasn't really like even a joke the first time you hear it, but then every time you hear it after that, it's like, oh, he's just saying the same thing at the end of every commentary.
Oh man, but yeah, Yeah. Enough about. I'm sure that that Tim and Greg will have a lot of stuff to say about during their Oscar special.
Mostly
but
Greg.
Right now it's about us. And
mostly Greg. He's the movie.
Yeah. I'm
he's
sure.
the king of movie town.
Yeah, king of Tinseltown, the city that never sleeps. You know, all the good things. I just want to ask your opinion because I think I know your opinion, but what is your general opinion around like Oscar season and like the Academy? I think I know what you think about the Academy Awards, but I'd like to hear it just for the record.
For years and years and years, I didn't care about Oscar night until I started watching On Cinema. And then it was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to be watching this Oscar special live. And I did last year, and it was amazing. And yeah, that to this day is still the only thing I care about when it comes to the Oscars. I mean, okay, I'll give the Oscars this. There was a time where art house movies were hard to advertise and they were hard to find, and the Oscars did help putting out a lot of those movies out there and giving them more free advertisement. I don't know if it's really relevant to do that in this day and age on the internet. But, you know, I will say that at one point in time, the Oscars did serve a purpose, but to me, the ceremony is so boring. It's so, flagellating. It's so, you know, I just don't care about anything that happens on the Oscar night. I don't care.
It really
who's gonna win or who's gonna lose, but
yeah, like it's to the point where. Because I agree with you, honestly. Like, there was a time where it was fun to watch the Academy Awards, to watch the Oscars, but it really does seem masturbatory to the whole Hollywood like system at this point. Like, there are so many studios out there cranking out advertisement and support for these weird little movies, and that was I absolutely agree. That was what the Academy Awards were good for. Is back in the day, I would watch the Oscars after seeing, you know, whatever was popular, and all of the nominees would be these movies I'd never heard of, and eventually I would go find them, and some of them would be really good, and some of them would be really bad, which I will get into when we talk about the Best Picture nominees. But
oh yeah, like because like
yeah, there was a place for it, but we've outgrown that, like just culturally.
Yeah, because like because we talked about The Shop on Main Street, which won Best Foreign Film at the Academy Awards back in the '60s. What American is going to find out about The Shop on Main Street, other than 30 Oscars
exactly,
or something like that? So I mean,
yeah, but at this point, it's like you can find anything now. It's like that's what's so great about, like, there's a lot of good or bad things about, you know, how films are distributed and like streaming and all that. But you have a whole lot of options. That's one of the I guess the best, and you could say the worst things about the current climate in like movies and film. But you don't really need the Oscars to be telling you what's good, because there's a general consensus online of what you should check out and what you shouldn't check out. And I think that's like again, there's a lot of decorum to the Oscars, and I think it's funny that they still think that they're very important, but I feel like culturally nobody's really cared about the Oscars for a really long time, to the point where like the most that I hear about the Oscars is maybe who won Best Picture and something someone said on stage or did on stage, and that's it. And it's just like drama at that point, you know. It doesn't feel important. It just feels like another piece of like Hollywood trauma.
Exactly. Well, like the Will Smith slap, and I know there was incidents before that and stuff like that. It's just it doesn't, and it's not even like interesting drama. It'd be one thing if it was like interesting drama. It's not, though. I mean, if they got like two actors with a feud up there to actually like go off on each other, I mean, that's obviously not what the Oscars want, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But it might be better for them. Who
Yeah.
knows? So, there, as you know, there's a lot of these awards, and I think all of them. I know we just said that the Oscars aren't important, but a lot of them are just as important as Best Picture. But I just wanted to go through the nominees for Best Picture because I know that me and you have seen a few of these, and I just kind of wanted to give a little talk about these movies and what I guess what we think deserves Best Picture ahead of the awards. So. Just going down the list, this is one that I haven't seen, but I know that you gave a lot of praise to, and that's Anora. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that movie, because I still haven't got a chance to check it out.
So basically, it's a movie from Sean Baker. I don't know if you've seen any of his other movies. He did Tangerine, The Florida Project, Starlet, Red Rocket. I don't know if you've seen any of those, but
Oh, yes, I've seen The Florida Project. That was really good.
yeah, that's probably his most famous one before this one. He's kind of becoming. He's been making more and more movies that have kind of gotten into the cultural spotlight. Like Tangerine won a lot of awards, and then The Florida Project was kind of mainstream. And then Red Rocket, for some reason, went really underseen, which is kind of confusing to me because I thought Red Rocket was really good. But now he's done Anora, and I personally think this is his best movie. It stars Mikey Madison, and it's basically about this sex worker who meets this Russian guy who basically says that I want you to come and do private visits with me in my big mansion and everything. And then they start to get into kind of a relationship, not exactly. But then he says he wants her to marry him, and then she has this kind of idea of the Cinderella lifestyle and everything. So what Sean Baker's very good at doing is kind of making these movies about these really scummy, kind of, horrible characters in a lot of ways. Or maybe even if they're not horrible, they're kind of, off the beaten path of society, I guess. And Anora, I think, is probably one of the best examples of that. I'd say maybe it's his most accessible film. I know some people are going to watch it and they're going to be like, oh, well, I didn't like Anora as a character. I didn't like the other people as characters. And it's like, that's kind of the point, to go through their journey and,
Right.
Yeah. And, for me, like, the movie was so well edited. It was so beautifully shot. They used a lot of different contrasting, like, emotions. A lot of the different handheld stuff that they do with the camera, and even a lot of just the straight up shots that they do with the camera are really, really good. So Anora is one that I saw a few months ago, and yeah, absolutely one of the best movies of the year. I would not be unhappy if that won Best Picture.
Awesome, yeah, and yeah, again, that's another one on my list, and I again, this is not a movie that I would check out. I think again, I like movies with a really out there premise, and this is pretty basic in terms of, I guess not basic. That would imply that it's, I guess, a standard premise for a movie that I guess I would have overlooked. But I don't know. I guess the Oscars do have something, and it is sort of pushing me in the direction of watching these movies, even though I already had you singing the praises of it before it was nominated.
Hence the power of the internet. And the reason I saw it is just because I like Sean Baker. And this was his best movie in my opinion. Yeah.
Awesome. Going back to the list, I'll jump around a little bit here. We don't have to talk about the ones we'll bring up the ones that we haven't seen at the end.
I watched a couple of them before. Are you going in alphabetical order? Because I watched a couple of them between that and Nora.
Okay, well, let's go in alphabetical order then. Okay, The Brutalists. I believe that's a Adrian Brody film. This is one that I was planning on seeing, but the plans fell through. I think it's still in theaters over here. Have you checked this one out?
I watched it maybe a week ago. So it's actually pretty fresh on my mind.
Oh, awesome! Yeah. So what'd you think?
I really liked it. It was It's basically about this guy who's an architect. He's a Jew who's come over from Germany, like right after World War II was ending, and he starts, working
Right.
these odd jobs, and it's a movie that feels like a biopic, but it's not a biopic. It's very realistic in the way that it kind of it portrays the relationship between this guy and like the tycoon that he's working for, and Adrian Brody does a really good job. I think some people are going to have a little bit of trouble with his accent, but I personally thought that he pulled off the accent,
Oh, yeah.
which was like just like he did in The Pianist. I think he's good at doing accents, and so yeah, I would recommend this. This is one of the better movies of the year for sure. I probably would pick Anora over it out of the best movie contenders,
Right.
best picture contenders that I've seen. But I did really like this one. I would say it's a long movie. It's 3.5 hours. But what's interesting
Yeah.
is that it does have an intermission, a 15-minute intermission, which is like
Oh,
actually part of the movie. It's not just like at certain theaters where they do that. They literally put up a thing and they do 15 minutes. You can go and use the bathroom and everything, which I think was good. Some people are going to say that it didn't need to be 3.5 hours, and sure, you could say that for sure. But I think it was a movie that was really trying to get you into the vibe and the time period that it was portraying, as well as just kind of, giving the characters room to breathe and move around in that sense. And I think it did a very good job at that. So I was not bored for the 3.5 hours, I'm glad to say.
yeah. That's the thing. Is like we recently, when you were down back in December, we checked out The Human Condition, and those movies are all like 3 hours long, like epics, and it's really easy to fall into that trapping of you like you want to keep someone's attention, especially now because everyone's attention spans are all fucked because of just the climate and everything like that. But if you use that time really wisely, a 3-hour movie will not feel like a 3-hour movie. And I am absolutely down for putting intermissions in movies. Whenever the Human Condition did that, I was like, fuck yeah, now I can get up, go pee, go get snacks. Like, I hate feeling stuck whenever I'm watching one of these long movies. So that's honestly perfect.
Yeah. I mean, even Satan Tango, the 7-hour movie we watched, like even that had parts
Yeah.
where you could just pause it and like, okay, you need to go to the bathroom or something, then go. So yeah, I'd recommend The Brutalist. It's worth checking out.
Awesome. I probably will then. Awesome. Shit. Let's see. Next on the list is A Complete Unknown. Did you check this out?
No, that's the Bob Dylan movie, right?
Yeah, it's the Bob Dylan movie starring Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't manage to check this one out. This came out recently too, so I'm wondering if I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to how good it is. But I'm wondering if there's some sort of recency bias, because I feel like this just came out like last month, didn't it? Or is that just movies here?
I don't know. I mean, The Brutalist kind of got a wider release in January. That happens a lot with Oscar movies, where the buzz starts to happen.
Oh yeah, fair.
Season.
It is Oscar
yeah,
season,
and then they start playing these movies in theaters in a wider audience. But I don't know. Like, maybe I'll check it out. It just, to me, that kind of seemed like the Oscars have an affinity for biopics, and this kind of seemed like the obligatory biopic nomination of the year. Maybe it's good. I don't know. But I actually was more interested. There was a biopic about Robbie Rotten that came out where they used a monkey. I forget what that was called, but
yes,
it's Robbie Rotten as a monkey.
Better. But Better Man.
Better Man. Okay, there we
Go. That's what it is.
Yeah. So
did you say? Did you say Robbie Rotten?
Yeah, Robbie Rotten. That's the fucking guy from Lazy Town.
I would watch a biopic
Williams.
about Robbie Rotten to find out how he got to that point. But yeah, I've heard that one's really good. I just from what I've heard about that one, I think that deserved a nomination. But you get what you get. Let's see. All right, under complete unknown, Conclave. Is this one that you managed to check out?
Yeah, I saw Conclave. Wasn't that impressed by it, honestly. It was.
Oh boy.
It was. I wouldn't
really?
call it bad. I thought that there was some good performances. I thought that there was. It was an interesting topic because it is kind of about like it's about the Vatican and some of the controversies they've gotten into, and like the whole idea of how they pick the next person as the Pope in this particular circumstance. And I thought that was like an interesting concept for a movie. I think that that's something that you could definitely work with. I just felt like the way that they did it there's a lot of very obvious symbolism. Like, there's a lot of use of the color red, for example, to the point where it's overbearing. I found the score to be overbearing. I found the conversations between the characters to be, kind of on the nose and kind of unnatural. But, that's just me. I wasn't too blown away by this one. That one, I'd say, out of all of them that I've seen, I don't really want that to win Best Picture, but not that I'm invested in what wins Best Picture, but that would not be my choice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you heard it here, folks. The Conclave is shitty. It's bad. Don't check it out.
Unless you like it. Then you can check it out. I don't know. Some people,
yeah.
A lot of people
no. Even if you like it, it's bad. Why are you watching bad movies?
It's mediocre.
Oh my god! All right. Next. Yeah, fair. Next is Dune Part 2. You've checked this out,
yeah,
right?
I liked it. I thought it was a good follow-up to the first one.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that they like the first one.
Yeah, same here.
Or they like the second one more than the first one. Maybe I was just more invested in the newness of seeing it on screen, that I kind of remember enjoying the first one a little bit more. The second one was very action-heavy, which is, a good thing. But
yeah,
I ended up liking them both, but I don't know. This is definitely an interesting choice, like a big sci-fi epic for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I really love both of these movies, Dune, the first Dune, and the second one. I guess it kind of made me think it is more action oriented. It kind of made me think of when the Deathly Hallows Harry Potter movies came out. When the first one came out, it was like 2.5 hours of them like putzing around the woods, and then the second one was this big action movie, and it felt really weird because they sort of put one in, like all the talking in one movie and all the action in the other, and which is not a bad thing. I think that honestly I would say that the character interactions in the first movie I liked a little bit more than the second one, but yeah, the action was incredible. It does feel crazy to see a movie like this, I guess, come to fruition, because like I've heard all the time about these books and how good they were, but I never really knew why, because I checked out the David Lynch's Dune, and it was fine when I was like in high school, but I didn't really got it. This sort of made me get the hype behind everything. It really put me, and you know what? I'll say it again. Timothée Chalamet is quite a good actor. I think he gets a lot of flack online for being this like really ethereally attractive dude, and I think a lot of people hate on that, but he's got some range. Like the first movie I ever saw him in was Wonka, which I thought was fantastic. Just I think there was a bit of a mixed reception on that one. But Wonka he did great in Wonka. He was great in this. Yeah, and then he's also he was in A Complete Unknown too. So I mean, he's having a great he had a great year last year.
I like Timothée Chalamet. I mean, I saw him in Call Me by Your Name first, and that's not a movie that I love. I know a lot of people like it. I thought it was okay. I'm not knocking it, but yeah, I think that he definitely had a lot of range. I thought he was good in Call Me by Your Name, and I think he's good in all these other movies I've seen him in. So yeah, I mean, it might be one of those things, kind of like Robert Pattinson, where we shit on him for a while, and then he comes out and starts to really impress people. So who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, I would absolutely compare it to Robert Pattinson because again, it's just this guy that it's that thing where like if teen girls love it, then everyone else needs to hate it. It's like, get over yourself. Come on, this guy's got real talent. Yeah. Also, my favorite thing about Timothée Chalamet is that he used to be a YouTuber. He used to make like modded Xbox controllers, and he was called like modded Xbox 360 or something, like some dumb name like that. So when he was at the Game Awards last year, and they introduced him under his like YouTube channel where he modded Xbox 360 controllers, which I thought was really funny. But yeah, Dune Part 2, great movie.
Cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no. I'll send you a link later. It's really funny. The next movie on our list is Amelia Perez. Did you check this out?
No, I haven't. This is the one I've heard a lot of controversy about, though. I don't know if you're.
I'll be real. I did watch this. I got about 45 minutes in, and I gave up. I would say this is the worst movie on this list that I have seen. It's really just terrible. Like the tone is all over the place. And I'm sorry. I know I'm giving a review after only seeing about 45 minutes of this movie, but I could not stand it anymore. The tone is obnoxious, and it's like I don't really know what direction it wanted to go in. I don't know if it wanted to be like, because the film is about this lawyer who is basically kidnapped by like a cartel in Mexico because the leader of this cartel wants gender reassignment surgery. So she has to go through the process of turning him into a woman. And it's a very touchy topic in today's environment. And it handles it with like no class or finesse whatsoever, which like I guess that there is something to be said about that, but I don't think it does. I think that it's not even just a matter of you know, I'm a bad LGBT. I hate all of this stuff because they didn't do it just the way I wanted it to. It's just, it felt so messy and scattershot. I don't know why this movie needed to be a musical, because the fact that it is a musical means I have to listen to some of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life. I think Amelia Perez sucks real hard. I think I'd love you to see it and see what you think, but I think I might have to go back and check it out again, because again, I've only made it 45 minutes in, and I just can't stand it. It's like I have to keep taking breaks because it's so obnoxious.
Yeah, well, I'm somebody who usually finishes whatever movie I start, but I do take breaks sometimes. I'm not going to lie about that. So,
yeah.
And that's just, when people say that, they're like, oh, are you saying that everybody has to do that? No, I just do that just because, that's the way that I roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Watching a bad movie to me makes me appreciate when I see a good movie all that much more. So,
yeah,
Amelia Perez,
absolutely.
It seems to, it's not jiving with the LGBTQ crowd. It's also not jiving with the people who want to call everything woke. It kind of seems to be pissing off both of those camps equally. So, that's the only thing I know about it, is that it was a lot of people say that it was nominated for Best Picture for political reasons, which it probably was. But that was...
Yes, I would say... I would say it was for sure nominated for political reasons. The last thing I'm going to say about it is if you like this movie, if you're a fan of it, I don't want you to think that I think less of you. If it spoke to you, that's awesome. I really just want to ask, who is this movie for?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna say, because it seems to have things that the right side would hate. It has things the left side hates, and it all just comes together into something that I hate. So that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, comment below. Let us know the
right.
target audience for Amelia Perez.
Yes, please. I would honestly love to hear, because maybe you can bring this to light. Maybe you can make me see the light.
Yeah.
I would love that. Okay, I'm Still Here. I've never heard of this.
Neither have I. I don't know anything about it. I'm looking it up right now. It's a Portuguese movie, maybe?
Neither do I.
Or, no, Brazil. Okay. But it's in Portuguese,
Oh.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I bet I'm Still Here is a lovely movie. Actually, just by looking from the description, it's probably not lovely. It looks like there's some dark themes here.
No, I see.
But I'm sure it's
the
a good
family like
movie.
smiling on the poster, and it's like, that's not a happy smile. There's something going on here, and so
no,
yeah, that's
something's going on here.
Well,
something's going on. I bet that's what the movie about.
That's a good poster when you can see something like that, and you can infer that something fucked up is happening when it's trying to put it off as like a family photo. So yeah, I'm impressed by the poster, I guess.
Well, tell you what, it is. I'll say, yeah, it's got a good poster. That's my review for I'm Still Here so far.
Okay. I looked up the director Walter Salles, and I haven't seen anything else that I guess he produced City of God, but I haven't seen anything else he's directed. I don't think. He directed The Motorcycle Diaries.
Might be worth it to check
Paris G. Tiami. He directed the remake of Darkwater, really? Okay.
Oh.
I haven't seen that.
Well, there you go.
The original Darkwater is good for a Japanese ghost movie from the early 2000s. Know what you're getting. But okay. Yeah,
awesome.
I'll check out. Oh, I've heard Central Station is good. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check out some of his stuff.
Yeah, might be worth it. Nickel Boys. This is another one I haven't heard of.
Yeah, I also have not heard of that whatsoever. I don't know. It's kind of like a Ramel Ross is the director and writer. He's kind of seems to be like a newer director and writer. He's only made one other movie. So maybe he's an up-and-comer that we should keep our eyes on.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if he's nominated for Best Picture. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, we don't have anything to say, but if these movies sound like they would be interesting to you, then please, by all means, go support new filmmakers, because it's always good to have new blood in the game.
Yeah.
It's time to talk about my favorite movie of the fucking year. It's time to talk about The Substance. The Substance fucking kicks ass. I love this movie. I don't think I can't even remember the last time I watched something with Demi Moore in it, but Demi Moore is a fucking knockout in this movie. She is killing it in every scene that she's in. Everyone is killing it in every scene that she's in this movie. There's just so much style.
Mackenzie Davis did a really great job too.
As a horror, it is literally terrifying. Like, I could go on. You go on and say something before I just keep going.
Well, I mean, you were right about everything you just said. But The Substance, it was absolutely amazing. It was by the French director Coralie Farguiet. I'm sure I'm saying that right. And I've seen their previous film, which was Revenge. And that was a good, really bloody kind of desert horror movie, kind of along the lines of, Duel or The Hitcher, but a lot more gory. And so I was interested to see what she would do next, and this absolutely knocked it out of the park. Demi Moore, like you said, did a really great job. So did Margaret Qualley. And I'm glad to say that because I saw her in 3 movies this year, which were Kinds of Kindness, this, and Drive Away Dolls. and I hated Drive Away Dolls so much, but yeah, and she was like the star in that, and she did a good job, but my God, the Coen brothers need to get back together if that's what they're going to do separate from each other. Dennis Quaid was amazing
Yes!
in this movie too. He was so, he was fucking so funny. The Substance, man, if this won Best Picture, that would be the ballsiest move that the Academy could have done. I don't think it's going to. I think it deserves it, but I don't think it's going to. And so, it was a fucking fantastic time. I would say that it was my favorite movie of last year, with the one exception, maybe being Hundreds of Beavers, which I don't know if that's actually a 2024 movie or not. So, yeah, but
it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So The Substance absolutely was amazing. I think it deserves the award. But if Anora wins, I'm not going to be upset. If The Brutalist wins, I'm not going to be upset. Dune Part 2, that would be strange to me, but, not a bad movie. The only one out of the ones I've seen that I'd be kind of, miffed about is Conclave.
Yeah. The only other one on the list here is a movie that I haven't seen. That's Wicked. Popular, you're gonna be popular, but not with the Academy. I don't think this one's gonna win.
Yeah, no, I don't think that that's going to win, but I haven't seen it, so I have no opinion.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the music.
Yeah,
either,
I'm not a good gay. I haven't seen Wicked. I probably should, because I like Ariana Grande. I think she has an amazing singing voice.
She's in that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm sort of miffed about is the fact that this is part one, and the second one will come out after this, which is strange because it's weird to split a musical up like that, right? I'm the biggest hater for this shit where you split existing properties up into other movies so you can milk more money out of it. It's a money making tactic, and I hate it. So I'll say that. Anything else I'll say after I see it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just depends on the context of whether or not it warrants it or not to split it up into different, I just realized...
entries.
I was looking at Demi Moore's filmography, and she was the antagonist in Beavis and Butthead Do America. I didn't know that. The chick that they were going after.
What?
Yeah, that was Demi Moore.
What? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
But yeah.
I will never. That is one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
It'd be just because of associated memories.
And so, Wicked was one where, I don't know, it just seemed like a big production musical thing, and that with that comes the whole argument of oh well, the musical is better, and I'm not a big musical guy in the first place, which I don't know, probably would upset my mom because my mom's a big musical person.
Yeah.
But not my favorite genre, and Wicked, I don't know, maybe it's good. I just don't care enough to go out to see it.
I've actually been playing. Speaking of Wizard of Oz in general, I've been playing. I discovered a DS RPG based on the Wizard of Oz. So it's like turn-based Dragon Quest combat, but you play as Dorothy and the Tin Man.
That would work, actually.
The Scarecrow and the Lion, and it's very strange. It's got a weird control scheme, but I'm really liking it. If you the Wizard of Oz, Return to the Yellow Brick Road or something, I can't even remember what it's called. The Wizard of Oz DS. Look it up, check it out, and then watch Wicked. I don't think that they're related, but wouldn't that be crazy if they were?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many Wizard of Oz movies, and they're just all over the place in terms of tone because, a lot of people base it off of the old 1930s movie, but then other people base it off of the books, which were much darker and much scarier and much more horrific. So there's this weird mishmash of tones with every single thing that comes out. You could have borderline horror movie the Return to Oz, and I think there was a more recent TV show that did something like that. And then, I don't know, you could have these big, bright musicals like Wicked. And to be fair, like even like the old 30s movie did have some dark stuff in it, but one, it was the 30s, and two, it was kind of not like, you really have to kind of read between the lines to get the subtext of how fucked up some of those things are. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I wonder if
exactly.
in this new musical there's a munchkin that hung themselves in the background.
Well, he hasn't hung himself yet. It's a prequel. But we will see the munchkin that hangs himself.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, yeah, that is our Oscar breakdown. So you're hoping for... I don't think it's going to happen. I'm hoping for The Substance. But I think in terms of who will win, I'm not really sure. What do you think? Who's most likely to win?
Brutalist. I think the Brutalist is a good contender to win. Again, having not seen or know anything about I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, I don't think I'm Still Here is going to win because it's like a foreign movie. And Nickel Boys, I have no idea. But I think The Brutalist is one where, it's advertised enough to the point where it seems to be pushing. So I think The Brutalist will probably win. Anora is also not like the classiest movie in the world, kind of like The Substance. It goes into some really dark and very honest territory in the case of Anora. And so that would be kind of a surprise too, but I think because it's also The Substance is also a nominee, there's a better chance for Anora because compared to that, it's not nearly as fucked up. So maybe Anora can win. It's possible.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's a toss up between The Brutalist and Anora. The rest of the movie, the rest of these are all fine movies except for Amelia Perez.
I would love for that to win just because it would piss off so many people.
It would piss me off. You would see me on Twitter. I would be mad, man.
I don't even think it's going to win Best International Feature because it's up against I'm Still Here, which I think is more likely to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess Flow is nominated for Best International Feature. I absolutely loved Flow. That was a great movie. That was an animated movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was a...
Oh, yes, I think I've heard of this.
Like a cat, and there's no dialogue in the movie at all, but it's about a cat who is trying to survive while the world is flooding, and they meet other animals and creatures, and they eventually get on a boat together. But yeah, I really love movies like that where there's no dialogue or anything, like the Shaun the Sheep movies or Robot Dreams, and Flow is probably one of the best ones I've seen in that sort of category. So I'd recommend Flow.
It's also nominated for Best Animated Feature Film, along with Memoir of a Snail and Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. So a lot of great movies there.
I would, in terms of Best Animated Feature, I'd probably pick Memoir of a Snail over it, but that's not a knock against Flow. That's just how great Memoir of a Snail is. So.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not a knock against Wallace.
Yeah, that's still on my list. I still need to check that out.
Inside Out 2, I liked a lot more than I thought I was going to. I wouldn't pick it for Best Picture though.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
Yeah. Wild Robot again. I liked it. I liked the visuals in that. I think a little bit more than the story, but I enjoyed it. I would probably say. Yeah, I wouldn't pick it though. That it might go to that, and it might go to Inside Out too, just because, they're more widely advertised by bigger studios. But I don't know. I would go with Flow or one of the stop motion animated
giving
movies.
giving it to a Disney Pixar movie feels like cheating at this point.
Yeah, but that's
because
what
it's
they always
like
do. Well, not always,
really.
but mostly.
I know. It's what they most commonly do.
And a lot of people were complaining that the anime movie Look Back got snubbed for Best Animated Feature, which I
did.
Agree. I would have put Look Back on that list before Inside Out 2 or Wild Robot, but Yeah. I mean, they're both. Maybe it's just because it was like under 60 minutes, so they don't want to. But that's part of what made it so good, is because
that's not fair though.
Yeah, is that it doesn't drag out shit.
Yeah, exactly. You could very well take that whole one-shot manga and stretch it out into a feature-length movie, but they didn't. They realized that they only needed 50 minutes or so, or however long that movie is.
Have you seen Look Back yet?
I haven't, actually. I need to. I think I started watching it, but then something came up. Jeez, I might do that tonight, now that I've thought about it. Jeez.
Yeah, I'd recommend Look Back.
Yeah,
but sure. I'd still pick Memoir of a Snail over it if it was nominated, personally.
Fair. Okay, well, that was our Oscars discussion. Why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll hop into our discussion of Série Noire. Get into our put our berets on and slice up our baguettes and get into a Parisian loving romantic
Memoir of a Snail
vibe. Memoir of a Snail escargot. Well, welcome back. Thank you for waiting. We were really worried that you were just going to leave. I know that like French art films are sort of they drive a lot of people away. But I appreciate you for staying if you did.
Yeah, I mean, the French New Wave, it also drives a lot of people to it. So, I don't know. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we selected... So, actually, yeah, I guess you selected Série Noire for our film for this month. This was a really interesting movie. I'm kind of really excited to talk about it. I'm always a little apprehensive about these like French New Wave films because I guess there's something
French
about
like
the whole
like
vibe
70s,
that
late 70s.
Oh no! Oh yeah. No, I wix my merds. Yeah, I like these French movies, specifically like Parisian French. It's like their whole vibe, sort of. I don't know. Like it's hard for me to get into, and this was sort of a hard movie for me to get into to start. Mostly because it's so friggin' hard to find a decent English sub of this movie online. But we figured it out.
It's a lot easier than finding the TV show.
Yeah, for real. Well, I guess not anymore, but
a certain someone who's wonderful who uploaded it to Internet Archive. But
yeah, I love that guy.
Me too.
But yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that too, because I know you're probably sick of talking about it since you made a whole video about it. But we're gonna have to talk about that show a little bit at the end here.
But then again, I mean, look how many videos I've made about Game Dude, and that topic still goes strong. So maybe I just have an obsessive mind like that.
Yeah, there you go.
So I will kind of get into that a little bit because, like I said, I mean, I explained the story in the last episode, but if you haven't listened to that...
But if you haven't,
I'll tell you that there was a French-Canadian TV show called Série Noire that came out in 2014 that I saw on Canadian Netflix, and then it left Canadian Netflix for a long time. I couldn't find the English subtitles for it, and when I looked, all I found were this film and with the English subtitles. And so for years and years and years, I always knew that this movie existed, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And, you know, when I made my first video on Série Noire, I said, you know what, maybe I'll review the French movie as a bonus once I actually get around to finding the TV show. And I did find the TV show, and now it's time to live up to my other promise, which I wasn't being 100% serious about, but I figured that whatever, I have a movie review podcast now with my friend, so we can do this.
Yeah. Time to pay the piper.
I thought you were going to make a home movies reference for a second.
But yeah.
Time to pay the price.
I should have. Shit. I am like so. There could be. You could set up a joke for me from a mile away, and I would still whip that shit. All right. So, this is a movie that I think once upon a time I heard about very briefly, but nothing. I didn't really know anything about it going in. But it's a perplexing movie. What did you think about this movie? Since I assume this is the first time you've watched it.
This was the first time I watched it. I mean, I guess technically I could have watched it before because I've heard about it for so many years. But, you know, it was kind of this thing where, like, I didn't know the director, really. I didn't know the actors. I didn't know anything about the people involved with it. I didn't really look up the plot, which was maybe a good thing because the plot is kind of unsettling, but I'll get into that. So I was recommending this was kind of like a shot in the dark where, you know, even because the only thing I kind of knew about it is that it had pretty good reviews, but just because something has a good reviews doesn't mean that A, I'm going to like it, and more importantly, B, doesn't mean I'm going to have anything substantial to say about it. So I was I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. Turns out that I actually liked this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was very impressed by it. And, I was, it's a very disturbing movie, but it's a movie that I think captures a lot of what it's going for, and it does a really good job. It's, you know, inspired. I looked it up a little bit. The director said he was inspired by the rawness of, like, Scorsese's Mean Streets, which I could see.
I could definitely see that.
This is a movie that is very much showing really horrible human behavior, not glorifying it, but showing, you know, the depravity of it, and it's very effective at what it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But before we get into like exactly what is done here, there are a lot of movies that set out to show a flawed or even like terrible protagonist, and what they do is they try to be impartial, but considering that the protagonist needs to move the story forward, there is sort of this something compels the filmmakers to sort of glorify their actions and who they are, sort of make them feel justified in their actions. The main character of Frank Poupart is absolutely, this is the most pathetic man I've ever met in my entire life. He is not glorified in the slightest. Everything he does is his fault, and like it is a unflinching commentary on this guy, where this movie hates this guy and wants nothing but bad things to happen to him.
That's kind of true to what happens, is that nothing but bad things do happen to him, because it's just one of those things where, you know, even at the beginning of the movie where, you know, we don't know much about him, we just see him as kind of like a sleazy door-to-door salesman. They're really going hard at just explaining or showing you, pretty much, not even just explaining, the kind of seedy nature of his lifestyle and everything that he's gotten into. And that's one thing where it's like, this movie or this character has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So how do we make a movie where, you know, you care about him and you care about what's happening to him? And what you need for that is a very strong performance. And Patrick Duaware, I think that's how you say his name, Duaware. I don't know how you say his name, but this guy,
Duaware.
Yeah, the guy who plays Frank, Patrick. Let's just call him Patrick. He absolutely nails this role. This is an absolutely knock it out of the park. Like, he is the reason to see this movie, in my opinion. Like, he is so good at making this character
for sure
portraying all the really horrible elements of this character, but also making him, kind of funny and goofy and, entertaining to watch. Not someone you want to be around in any in any manner, and not someone who's glorified whatsoever. But making him entertaining just in terms of like his movements, the way that he kind of, he really sells the aspect of this character where you can see why he's manipulative. You can see why he gets people to listen to him in certain instances, because as pathetic as he is, he's really, he's kind of like a smooth talker in some ways. And, he just absolutely... I cannot praise that performance enough.
Yeah, no, he is killing it in this movie. The first scene we see of him, he is just parked in this some sort of like construction field, and he is just sort of miming something to himself, and it's not really clear just from watching him what exactly he's doing. He's listening to music, he dances, he salutes. He there's so much going on in his performance. He's clearly someone who lives in his head a lot more than he lives in reality. Like, excuse me. It's almost deceptive, because I would say at the beginning of this movie, before any words are spoken in this movie, it tricked me into thinking he was a decent guy. This opening scene where he's just sort of entertaining himself, listening to music in front of his car, is really interesting, because you don't really know anything about him, what his views are, what he wants, what he doesn't want. All you sort of see is like, it's almost like a playful nature, and it sort of beckons you in. You're like, okay, I want to know more about this guy. And then it just gets worse as things go along. And I think we're going to get into all of this in some capacity. But just from watching this movie, this guy definitely has a lot wrong with him, specifically like an OCD that I've noticed. Like, every time he is doing something, he has these strange like impulses to do things that don't make sense in his own like in the story. Like, there's a part where he's watching somebody from his car leave an area, and he's telling himself, he's like, don't look here, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me, and which he does all the time. He's constantly speaking to himself, and he says, don't look at me, and then he honks his horn, and the guy turns, he says, no, why would you look at me? And that was like one of this movie's got a really great sense of humor despite the fucked up shit that happens in it.
Yeah, it's a really funny movie.
Like, he's terrible, and he's hilarious, and he's charming, and he's degrading, and he's the worst person you've ever met. He's all of these things at once, and it's really, really, there's a lot of depth to this role, and he's just sort of knocks it out of the park every scene that he's in. Everyone else does a decent job, but he is like a beacon in this movie. It is incredible, and I don't think I've ever seen anything else with him in it.
I actually did look up a little bit about the actor. He kind of said that, and like just the process he had with making this movie, and a lot of the parts of this movie where like fucked up shit is happening. Like, there's one part where he's like banging his head against the car. He's actually doing that. He's doing that like. With and he's like doing it hard, like to himself. And the same thing with the scene near the end where he's slapping his boss around. Like, those are actual slaps, and this was all the actor's request. It wasn't the director telling them to do this. This was him. It was them really getting into the method acting of it, and he basically kind of said Patrick Dwyer, or however you say his name. He said that he really reached in himself for this movie to really bring out a lot of the darkness inside himself, because you know, this is a very unfortunate, but he did have a very traumatic past himself, the actor, and a few years after this movie, he did commit suicide, which is, yeah, it's a shame because like he really was a great talent. When anybody does that, I mean, it's sad, but it was definitely something where you can definitely feel the authenticity in his performance. And he said that the scene where he was choking out his wife, spoilers, I guess we get into spoiler territory every time, but the scene where in this movie where he's choking out his wife was one of the most mentally exhausting things that he's ever done, and like he was kind of traumatized for the rest of the day after the shoot, and he you can tell like he got into the role here, and you can tell he was living in the character's head without obviously choking his wife out or the actress out for real, but like there's a lot of there's a lot of pain on display here, and it's real acting. I'd say it's not like you don't feel like it's someone mimicking the idea of this internal pain. It's somebody living through it and like reaching inside of themselves to really bring this out. And he did an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about, I guess it's not the last thing, but the last thing in this segment that I'll say is, it's almost like he made me think of like Van Gogh or something like the tortured artist is such a trope at this point. But this guy, this Patrick Dwyer, he is really put everything out there. Like every single, like every time he screams, every muttered whisper, everything that he does, it just has so much meaning behind it. Even when he's just trying to be funny, because he's regularly trying to be like he's a very comedic actor. He's very physical. There's a section where he's going through the old woman that he, again, spoilers, the old woman that he murders. He's going through her room and tearing it apart looking for a gun, and I did not know a human being could move at these speeds with how he is ripping this room apart. It's like if the climax of The Room was good. Like that's the first thing I thought of, is it's like the end of The Room, but Tommy Wiseau is a real actor and there's a real meaning behind it. It was a really incredible performance to behold. I guess at this point we should probably talk about what the movie is, right?
Yeah.
Like what it's about.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So basically, our lead character is Frank Poupel.
Yeah.
Poupel? Frank. It's Frank. So he lives in like the seedier parts of Paris as a door-to-door salesman, selling like clothes and beauty products, just about anything. And he comes across this house with a teenage prostitute in it, where her aunt was whoring her out essentially for money and gifts. And the movie is just him falling into this it's almost like a bender of bad decisions as he sort of falls in love with this teenage prostitute, which is so strange because
I was just going to say that the title Série Noire literally means a run of bad luck, and that's kind of like what this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, everything bad happens to this guy. Like, but to be fair, it is not all bad luck. This guy does everything. This guy does contributes to his own downfall.
No. I
like,
mean,
it's so strange because
it's one of those things where bad things happen to bad people. It's
exactly, yeah. Like, and he deserves everything that he gets, and that's. It's so funny because, again, this movie tricks me. It's like, in that first scene where he meets Mona, this prostitute, she like gets naked in front of him, and he's like scared. He reacts how I think a normal person would react in that situation, where it's like, how old are you? Is she making you do this? Do you need help? And it's like, again, it tricks me into thinking that this guy might have like a semblance of a heart. But then the moment that she actually like inconveniences him, like she puts up a fight or she struggles, he's just like, fuck it, I'm leaving. And he goes, and she's like, will you come back? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he just forgets her. And like he just turns a blind eye to that and continues to try to go his own way.
His conflict at the beginning of the movie is that he's looking for someone who owes him money, and he just kind of happens to find this prostitute.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, after he finds the guy who's looking for money, who he's looking for money from, that's when the prostitute starts to come back, and that it totally devolves from there.
Yeah, Mona is a really interesting character because there's these two. I guess the two love interests in this movie would be Frank's wife, Jean, and then there's Mona, who is this teenage prostitute. And Jean is like this very... She's very bitter at him, which, like, to be fair, he is a very... emotionally unavailable person, and he screams at her whenever he comes home. But they both seem like very unhappy people. But this is the life that he chose. And then Mona is this other woman that the of what could be very much like a Lolita situation happening, but to like a really extreme degree.
Yeah, it was this thing where, and I did look this up about the director, and his name is Alain Corneau, I believe. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Yes.
Again, I don't know anything about the specifics of this. This guy did die in like 2010.
Oh, yeah.
But there's apparently an actress after the fact, last year, that came out and said that he groomed her while she was 16.
Oh, God.
And that was when he was like working on her with a 90s movie. Again, don't know if this happened, don't know the legitimacy of these claims. Not saying it didn't happen, not saying it did happen, but it kind of adds a weird context when you realize that this movie's about a 16-year-old prostitute. And it is this. And
yeah.
I also looked up the woman who played Mona. She had she lived till she was about 41. She was beaten to death by her husband.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, there's a lot of fucked up things that happened to the people who worked on this movie. And, yeah, I'm not going to I looked into the specifics of it. It's a lot more horrific when you do that. But I'm not going to get too into that here. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Maybe this movie was the cause of a Série Noire, a run of bad luck for the people involved.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about, because like there's a lot of like like the role that killed them. Like we talk about like Heath Ledger's The Joker or like things like that. Like it just seems like everything. Just from what I'm hearing from you, it seems like this movie really was like a black mark where everything started to go wrong for most of these people. Which is really interesting because that's what it feels like. It like in the movie itself, like it just feels like everything is falling apart around everyone involved.
I'm not sure I would say that about the director or the girl who played Mona, but for the girl who played Frank, I mean that might have been the case because like he's putting his all into this role, and it's a very hard role to play. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really it's like killing him. But yeah, so. Essentially, he is when he goes home. I really do think. I don't know if this was meant to be because I know that this is based on a book by Jim Thompson, A Hell of a Woman, and I don't know if this was supposed to be a main plot point. I really do think that Frank has some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder because he comes in. after he gets back from work after this terrible day, and the house is a mess, and his wife hasn't cleaned anything, and you could really tell that this is like a thing that she does just to piss him off, so that he gets set off. It's a really horrible, toxic relationship that they're in. Not even codependent, like they are just like hurting each other every time they see each other. And it's sad to see, because he has this screaming fight with her in the bathroom. He pushes her into the tub, and it's really hard to watch. And he's flaky is the thing. Is he can't decide whether he wants to stay with his wife or with this mysterious, almost mute prostitute who barely says anything through the whole movie.
That he was
because
in a different scene. Am I imagining that, or was that in the dialogue?
It might have been. Yeah, I believe that they mentioned that he has cheated on his wife before. He's definitely an unfaithful person, which is obvious considering the main plot of the movie. But he's afraid to pick the wrong choice. He is constantly in this situation where he is trying to make plans and schemes to make his life better, but he's not looking at the bigger picture, and is constantly making mistakes. That fight he has with his wife drives his wife away, which puts him into a further depression and impairs his decision making, and it seems for the most part he can't stand Mona. Like, at any point where she is sharing a scene with him, with the exception of like the beginning of that first scene, he is just so, like, he could barely even look at her, and you can tell it's partially guilt for, you know, cheating on his wife with her, even though they haven't really done anything. They're planning on running away, and like 3 times in a row he will just be like, let's run away right now, let's go, and then he'll say, actually I have to go do this, and then it never happens. And he's just like, he's a chaotic mess of a person. Like, it's really, it really goes to show the mindset that this guy is in at this point. You know, stealing from his boss, and like, it just escalates until, you know, the end of the movie, where everything comes to like a really horrible head.
And it's very much this. I would describe this movie as a noir film. And that's probably part of the pun of the title, you know, Série Noire. Which, and, you know, the idea of a lot of noir films is that there are no good people in them. There's just bad people and worse people. And as horrible as Frank is, all these other people who he's associating with are just as horrible, you know, like, or, you know, the wife, or maybe not his wife, but the aunt, Mona's aunt, who's prostituting her own 16-year-old niece, and then the fact that Mona is just going along with it when he's said, oh, let's kill her and take her stash. She's just kind of like, okay. And then his boss, Staplin, is this total sleazy asshole who knows what Frank is capable of, and he goes along with him anyway. And then his friend, Tiki Des, is just, you know, again, they're all just associated. So pretty much there's no good people in this movie except his wife, debatably. And even then, you know, you have to wonder why she's associating with this guy.
Yeah, exactly. It really does feel like Jean and Frank were made for each other. Just really hateful people. And in this situation, it just comes to a horrible head. I think one of my because most of this movie is Frank driving around and preparing for this plan of leaving his wife and stealing all of Mona's aunt's money and just killing her in the process. And it really does feel like he's trying to like plan this huge caper and like get away with it.
Yeah.
And he fancies himself some sort of criminal mastermind. but like nobody believes that. Even his boss, it knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that when he can, he knows whenever he's stealing or fleecing him for money, it's not hard to track down
They even said
who
like
he
they were in the
is.
newspaper.
And that's the thing, is he's incapable of dealing with the consequences of his own actions. Like when his boss catches him stealing money from the company, and stealing product, he sends him to jail, and he is in jail for all of one night, and he has a full mental breakdown, like screaming and kicking the doors, and it is so much more than is needed. He is incapable of dealing with the consequences of his own actions, and I think that he doesn't even know how to live properly, because he's just so caught up, and he's always lying, which means he's always getting caught up in his own lies. He is just living a miserable life of someone who never had any marketable skills. It's it's honestly a depressing existence that he's going through.
And like there is like this whole thing where one of the things he's good at is coming up with like these fabricated stories on the fly. Like, for example, when his wife accuses him near the end of the movie of being associated with the murders that she read about in the paper, then, you know, he comes up with this story just off the top of his head about why he can't go to the cops, and, you know, why he's doing these things, and how it wasn't actually him. And then, you know, even though that didn't work, you can kind of see that he has this pattern of doing this, and his wife eventually just catches on. And, you know, it's the same thing that he tried to do with his boss, because his boss started asking questions too, and he wasn't even really trying to hide it that well. That's the kind of the thing, is like you said, he does consider himself to be this mastermind, and he's not.
Nah, not at all.
At the same time, I will say that there was kind of this thought in the back of my mind where, you know, I don't think that this was his first time killing people, considering how comfortable he is with it. He's very, maybe he did get away with this once before, or a couple of times before, and he's gotten sloppy now because he thinks he could just do it. You know, he had this whole plan worked out about how this was going to work, and how he was going to frame his friend, which was, you know, that was a pretty shocking scene, I think, when he shot his friend when he woke up, or when he walked back into the house.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to say is, there's not a whole lot of like blood special effects, but the color of the blood that they use is so incredibly striking. It's like a neon like red, and it's so shocking to see, because it's not realistic at all. But when you see it, it makes the wounds look that much worse. I really appreciated the special effects that were used for when anyone was maimed or bleeding. Because that was an amazing like choice. Just a small choice like that can really make a huge difference.
And it's definitely this thing where you know, blood back in the like late 70s and stuff didn't really look that realistic, and this was a low budget film with a very small crew. And but one thing that French films usually do is their use of color to really emphasize things. If you see, you know, like the more famous examples being like Amélie or The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, but, you know, even barring those,
right,
stuff like this where it's low budget, they still really want to emphasize the mood and the tone with these uses of color. One of them being the blood, or the use of, you know, light and dark, such as when he's going through the house and, you know, he turns on the lights and shoots them. But, you know, yeah, I find that that's something that the French are very good at, is making visually striking movies that tie into the themes of those movies.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And yeah, to go back to like the decisions that he makes, like he makes these decisions without any like thought about like how things will go in the end, or and like it's funny to think because he definitely, when he kills the aunt, it definitely feels like he has murdered before. I definitely agree with that, but you would think, considering that he would be less tense. Like he walks in and he knocks on the door, and the aunt says, "Do you have my coat?" Because she ordered a coat from him through his job, and he says nothing. And he walks in, and she says, "Well, where is it?" And he says nothing. And she says, "What are you doing?" And he says, like, he's like stuck, scared on the spot because of the pressure of what he's about to do. And then when he does kill her, it's this rushed, like hack job. Like he he's scared of this, even if it's something that he knows he's capable of. He's still scared to kill someone, even if it's like an old woman. And that really just goes to show how pathetic he is. Like, even in the face of like a defenseless old woman, he's still scared to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It has nothing to do with morals or anything. It's just fear. It's this thing where
it's fear that he'll get caught, and fear that she'll get away. It's never fear of like his mortal soul or whatever. It's never fear of like who he's becoming. He never mourns that because that's long gone. It's always fear of the consequences.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of near the end where he gives the money to his boss. That's how I interpreted it anyway. That he was afraid of the consequences that were going to follow after that. And I do have some things to say about the ending of this movie, but I guess before we get to that, are there anything that you want to bring up in the plot specifically?
No, I don't think so. Let's cover the ending, because this is another thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay, so what do you think of the ending?
All right, yeah. So the ending was again, what a tonal shift is what I would think I would describe it as is he had, after just strangling his wife, it really does feel like this is the moment where things finally like catch up to him. Like, all of his lies are catching up to him. He had to kill his wife, and Mona's waiting right outside, which I think is so funny, is that she's just out there waiting while he's murdering his wife. And then his right after he kills his wife, that's when the doorbell rings and his boss shows up and basically demands that he gives him all of the money that he stole, and doesn't like threaten to take him to the cops or anything, threaten to report him, because at that point they would know that he has stolen money. So he gives away all that money, and then the money is gone, and he has no evidence that he killed the old woman. And then in his mind, he's free. There's nothing wrong anymore. And he goes out and he picks Mona up in his arms and he starts swinging her around. It really hard and fast too, which I thought was kind of crazy. Yeah, and yeah, that's the ending of the movie. Like, he is not caught, he is not held responsible, because all of the people around him are, again, like you said, it's a noir. There are bad people, and there are worse people, and he is the worst people, and all the people around him are bad people. So they have, they get theirs. Why let him, why let him face the consequences when you could benefit from just letting it be? It's like so incredibly darkly hilarious. That's it took me off guard to say the least.
If you really think about it, like, the money's gone now, but his wife's body is still in there. And so, like, if the police come around and they start
Yeah,
investigating, I mean, they're going to find that and then put two and two together. And then, they catch him. Like, I don't think that he'll probably sell out his boss on a whim. It's no issue with that.
exactly.
But like, this whole thing where, the way that, like, it makes it's portrayed as a happy ending for the character, but if you really think about it, what's going to happen after this, and none of those the options of what are going to happen after this are good. I mean, and the whole thing is like, sure, he's infatuated with Mona at this point, but he just strangled his wife to death. What happens when he gets bored of Mona, even if he does get away? And he was annoyed by Mona for so much of this, so there's a good chance, like, if they do somehow manage to get away with no money at this point, what the fuck are they gonna do? And Mona's life is on the line, and even then, it's more likely than that he just got caught by the cops, who were already tracking him and were on the verge of catching him. So I really thought that the ending, at first I was a little bit thrown off by it. I mean, more than a little bit, really, but the more that I thought about it, the more I think about how just brilliant it was. The way that it ended, exactly where I think it should have. Of, like, making this Fox, like, pseudo happy ending when, if, all the context around everything that happened just suggests it's not actually going to be that way for very long. So...
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's what I was saying is he has no regard or idea that consequences will come from his actions. He is always under the impression that he will always be 2 steps ahead because he's a criminal genius and he will always get away with whatever crimes he commits. But it's there's no way you could live like this. Because, like, who's to say this isn't how he met his current wife? Who's to say this isn't how he met Jean?
Yeah.
Like, when you live with and enjoy the company of a person like this, eventually you are going to outlive their usefulness, and they will cast you aside. Like, he has no morals. He has no loyalty to anyone. He's a demon. Like, he is I would say one of the worst film protagonists I've seen in a very long time. He runs the gambit. He's a thief. He's a murderer. He's a fucking pedophile. He's everything. Like, he is the trifecta of fucked up shit.
And
like,
but like, we say all this, and the movie, I do want to make it clear, the movie is hilarious when there's a lot of humor in a lot of these scenes.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's kind of like, it has sort of a Coen Brothers kind of vibe to it, where how fucked up it is only contrasted by how funny it is, and it's able to balance those things very well. And in this case, might even be, that it's as fucked up as something like Fargo or whatever. And it really does a great job. I mean, this is pre-Coen Brothers too, so it's not like they were looking at them for inspiration, but this was really, really well done. And it's an uncompromising look at a really dark character, and I thought that it did it very, very well. I think that it's going to not be for everybody, because it's going to be doing too much for certain people, but if you're okay with those intense scenes and you're looking for a really interesting character study of someone horrible, kind of like what I was going back to with Sean Baker, he doesn't make the most likable protagonists in the world, but he does make movies where you're interested in seeing what happens to them, partially because of the humor and partially just because the situations that they're getting themselves into are so interesting, and I think that applies to this movie too.
Yeah. What was that movie? I was just thinking, what was that movie about the kids who would break into celebrities' houses and they would steal all their stuff? What was that movie? We saw it together. Bling Ring. I was just thinking, like, this is the most like, it is very easy to make a movie about a whole bunch of about terrible people doing terrible things and missing the mark because you forget to make your main characters compelling. They don't need to be relatable, and they don't need to be likable even. They just need to be interesting. That's the case with the Bling Ring.
Totally.
I hated that movie because every character in that movie was awful, and I didn't like watching them, and they weren't compelling. They were paper thin. And this guy feels like Frank Poupart, that feels like a character that has a past and a future. Like, he feels like a guy who probably thought he was tough shit when he was younger and managed to convince someone to go along with him with his schemes, and that would be his wife. It feels like he feels like a guy that has never been weighed down by his responsibilities. He's never had any responsibilities other than, how he's gonna make a quick buck and who he's gonna screw over next. But all the while, it's almost like you want to see him keep going in this dark way because he's so compelling and interesting to watch. You want to see what he does next.
And I think it would have made for like a cathartic ending if like he got like gunned down by the police or something. But I think what they did was actually better than the cathartic route that they would have went, where catharsis, that's what the word I was looking for, than the catharsis that we would have got from that, because what they did was implying a lot more darkness, and it kind of leaves it up to our minds to think of like how fucked up, how much is this guy going to get into absolute fucking horrible shit because of who he is. And I think because of how unlikable he is, the audience's imagination afterwards just goes into thinking like, oh, these are all the horrible things that can happen to him, and I can't wait for them to happen to him, and they probably will happen to him. And that was just, I thought it was really smart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a satisfying way to end your movie, which would have been that way of like gunning him down and getting him arrested, or finally facing the music for his crimes. But then there's the smart way, which is adhering to the themes that we've been shown. And I think that this movie ended in the perfect way, honestly.
Yeah. And so not bad for a French movie that I had no idea if I was going to like or even have anything substantial to say about. I was very impressed by Série Noire.
Série Noire.
As I was by the TV show.
Yes, yeah.
So I remember before that you said you wanted to talk about the TV show for a bit, and you've been watching it, so I mean, I've said enough about it, so I think you can go and take the stage here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just wanted to say a brief word on the show, because I think I think you've said enough, but I am really enjoying it. I'm about 6 episodes into season 1, and I'm really, again, the way you describe it is sort of like French-Canadian Breaking Bad, but in like a very weird direction, because like there's a lot of like Breaking Bad likes, like the average guy who suddenly has to deal with a extraordinary or often criminal situation. But this is not a way I've ever seen it like handled, and I think this shows like I think the important thing that all these Breaking Bad shows forget is to be really likable and funny, and that's what this show is. It's incredibly funny. I didn't expect how likable these characters would be, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm kind of bummed out there's only 2 seasons of it, because I love Denis and Patrick so much. I just want them to succeed. I want their show to do good, even if they're doing bad things because of it. I mean,
if it's any consolation, after it's over, you can watch Happily Married on CBC Gem, which was by Les Tourneaux and stars them again. So.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do then. Oh man. All right, but yeah, that's Série Noire, and after
I
that,
recommend both the
we
TV show and the movie.
Série Noire.
And it's. I was kind of thinking like, it's kind of, it's interesting because I was kind of thinking like, well, what one do I like better? I would say probably the TV show, but it's kind of like a blessing and a curse that they both share the same name because they have nothing to do with each other. And
Yeah.
So it is this thing where it's like it's this unfair comparison to really compare these two properties that have nothing to do with each other, even though they're both, comparable in the sense that they're dark French crime comedies that focus on very interesting characters. Macacan.
Macacan.
There's so much of but at the same time I wouldn't have known about the movie unless I was looking for the TV show, and I kept finding the movie. And so it is a blessing in that regard that they both share the same name, because I wouldn't have recommended this otherwise.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, but I would just say watch them both, enjoy them both. I will say the TV show is probably a lot lighter than the movie, even though the TV show is pretty damn dark too.
Oh yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't have like the same horrible, evil, despicable tone of the movie, even though they're both complemented by a lot of humor. Actually, probably I'll say this about the movie. One more thing is that one of my favorite parts, I think, was when he was in the bar and then the gay guy kissed him after I thought he was gonna like beat him up. And,
oh yeah.
Scene. But yeah, there's
Oh, that was gonna be my intro. I want your mouth, baby.
Now it's gonna be part of our outro. So yeah, watch Série Noire, both the movie.
There we go.
And the TV show, even though it might be kind of difficult to find subtitles. I mean, you could come to our Discord and ask us specifically. We can help you, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We are the wayfinders on the path of finding subtitles for French Canadian and French films.
I already established myself as the Japanese subtitle finder for Obayashi, but
just a subtitle. If you need subtitles, come to us. We'll look.
We'll look. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I can't guarantee we'll find anything, but we'll look.
Oh, I love that, man. All right. Well, yeah, that I think that pretty much wraps up discussion. Did you have a recommendation for us today, Ian? Because if not, I actually have a recommendation. So I was going to give it to you.
But, hey, go ahead.
Well, I'm just really nice, and I like to offer. But yeah, this is a movie that I actually checked out shortly after we started the podcast. This is a couple of years ago. I watched this, and I was just I was looking for more strange movies to recommend, and this is one that sort of struck me, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about. It is Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai. So that is my recommendation for next month.
I mean,
well, yeah, I would recommend
fucking movies anyway, so I guess it would be totally within the realm of possibility that I stumbled across this at some point, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, fair. I think it's. I think I'm surprised that you haven't checked this out. I'm surprised I checked it out before you, since you watch more weird movies than I do. But which is fun, which is funny to think about, because that's my favorite kind of movie.
Oh, it's by Jim Jarmusch. Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I saw a couple movies of his.
Yeah, but yeah, Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai.
If you haven't seen any of his other movies, Coffee and Cigarettes is pretty good. That's the one I guess he did right after this one, and Night on Earth is also really good. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess check those out.
Yeah, this is the only movie I've seen by him, but considering if you recommend it, I might have to check out a couple, and we'll talk about them next month.
Okay. Sounds good, and I am happy to see Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for listening. This has been the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. This edition in February. This is probably coming out after Valentine's Day, but please give your loved ones a hug and a kiss from me and Ian. Don't tell them it's from us, because that would be a whole discussion that you need to have with your loved one.
Podcast and we'd get a higher viewership, so do that.
Oh my god. There we go. Yeah. Hug your. I need you to hug and kiss your loved one and say, "That's from Ian and Nathan." And they say, "What?" And you say, "It's from a podcast." And they go, "What podcast?" And you go, "The Unrealistic Elephant Podcast." And they go, "Why is it called the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast?" And you say, "Well, it's kind of hard to explain. I can't get into it right now. It's like, that's a weird name for a podcast. What is it about?" And you're like, "It's about movies." And and they're like, "It doesn't sound like it's about movies." And you're like, "Well, but it is."
Yep, that's the conversation.
So go do that. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening again, guys. This has been the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. I am Nathan.
I am the amazing atheist. Peace the fuck out.
Peace the fuck out. See you guys next month.